Congressman Scott Perry, a representative of the great state of Pennsylvania. Congressman, thank you for joining me again.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, lots going on. Trump's
Yep.
first 30 days, he just seems to be knocking it out of the park. Elon Musk, Doge, knocking it out of the park. I want to go through some of those big stories with you.
Sure.
Recently on my show, I shared a clip of you on Capitol Hill discussing how much money has been wasted with USAID and military activities in the Middle East. Now that you've had some time to digest the USAID scandal and all of the spending in the dark of night, what are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, I've been on the Foreign Affairs Committee since I've been in Congress. And so every single year, multiple times, we have USAID come in. We talk about this stuff. Mainstream media never picks it up. You can't get your colleagues to vote to cut any of it. No one seems to care. So it's not like a new story to me, although I will say that some of the things like paying Politico, for instance, we didn't know those things were happening. So that is shocking indeed, because the rat hole was much deeper than we thought it was. And I think that most of us understand that we want to project American power, and we want to use America for a force for good to combat, say, like the Chinese. And of course, it's much better to use diplomacy and the things we're good at as opposed to armed conflict. But we also were seeing, and had been seeing for a long time, that being abused to the tune of what USAID's budget is hovers between 40 and $45 billion annually. And I literally think we could cut $40 billion out of it and not miss anything meaningful. And so, while our country is being bankrupted and every 100 days we go $1 trillion further in debt, you got to start looking at something. And no one around here has an appetite to find any savings anywhere. Every program is sacred. And obviously every program isn't sacred. As a matter of fact, some are really detrimental to the cause of America. When you have majority Christian countries being forced to do, transgender briefings or whatever to accept American aid, they want the money, they want whatever the program is, but they don't want that stuff because it's antithetical to their culture, their value, their beliefs. That's not good for America. It's not good for them. And so what we really have learned, and look, the USAID is just one small example of this. The left has masterfully, over the course of 4 to 6 decades, used government and the whole of government and every single component of it, and taxpayer funding, obviously, to promote the left-wing agenda. That's what they see the purpose of government is, and that's what they've used it for. And the rest of us that have screamed about it have been ineffective. Let's just face it, we've been ineffective at stopping it until now, where Elon Musk has this huge platform where he can immediately relay that information to the American people, and they say, what are we doing? They're, as they should be, horrified by it, and they want the accountability. So we got a long way to go, but I think the first thing is to understand just how deep this rat hole is and what its real purpose is. The real purpose is to use the huge bank account and authority of the federal government, the United States federal government, to promote hardcore left-wing ideology, not only in the United States of America, but around the globe. And this has been going on for decades and decades, and it's not going to turn around overnight, but we've taken the first real step towards doing something real in my lifetime right now in the last 30 days.
Yeah, it's like one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. I mean, you just got me thinking, like, okay, you say that this wasn't new to you, but now Elon Musk does one tweet about Sesame Street in Iraq, or billions of dollars through the Lutheran Church to bring illegal immigrants up through Mexico, or Catholic church services, or whatever the group was, money going to George Soros, and all of a sudden 50 million eyeballs hit that. It's like now it's like the American people are waking up. I think it's just been so transformational. I think one of the things that has been shocking to me was, the Democrats, they go on the mainstream media and over again say Republicans are a threat to democracy. MAGA's a threat to democracy. Trump's a threat to democracy. And then when you shine light in those dark corners, you find that they've been using taxpayer money to undermine democracy, flood us with illegal immigrants. I mean, they're using our money to invade the United States of America. Your thoughts on that?
Well, look, the only thing that's kind of different about that maybe is that, or new maybe that we've realized is, or that most people have realized is that they're using our own money, right, to undermine us. The left always is guilty of what they're accusing you of doing. It's just perennial. I mean, you might not know it this minute on this specific issue, and right now it's a conspiracy, but give it, how long is a conspiracy now in the United States of America? About 30, somewhere between 30 seconds and 30 days or something like that. They're doing what they're accusing you of doing, and they've been doing it for decades and decades. And, most of it, we knew that these non-governmental organizations were doing this. Many of us here knew it and had been trying to stop it and highlight it and ring the alarm bell and shine the light on it. It's just mainstream media doesn't cover it at all because they're in on the action. I mean, when you got USAID, the United States Agency for International Development, paying subscriptions to Politico, which is an inside the Beltway, gossip rag. Like, tell me how that aids in international development. It's all a grift, right? It's like not only has the left used the largesse of the federal government to promote leftist ideology, they've literally just stolen wholesale from the American people, and no one has been able to highlight it effectively to get the American people fired up about it. But you can say whatever you want about Elon Musk, which I remind everybody was a darling of the left just 3 years ago, and now he's public enemy number one. He's actually eclipsed President Trump as public enemy number one because all he's doing, and people say he's an unelected bureaucrat, and I remind him he's also an unpaid bureaucrat. Why is it that they don't care about the hundreds of thousands, the millions of unelected bureaucrats that work for the federal government with all their access to all your information and making decisions on your behalf, but they're worried about this one guy who's unpaid, who's just doing, all he's doing is saying, this is what we found. For better or worse, this is what we found. They don't criticize what he's found as just abhorrent and so excessive. They criticize him for finding it, which is what you really need to focus on because it tells you right away who they really are. They're not interested in a country where you're in charge, where elections matter. They're interested in a country that you have the perception of being involved and have the perception of making a choice. But no matter who the president is, they're still in charge. They'll determine what's right for you and the rest of the world, and you really have nothing to say about it. That's what they really want.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty telltale when Democrats are more agitated that you're shutting down the fraud than that you discovered the fraud. So, okay, I want to react to a Joe Rogan clip with you. This is a gentleman by the name of Chase Hughes. He's a persuasion expert, and he said on the Joe Rogan show that he would bet his life and his career that COVID and the lockdowns were a psyop on the American people to cover for Dr. Anthony Fauci's mistakes. Let me roll this and then we'll react to it together.
Do you think that someone sat in a room and that people discussed the best ways to get people to comply?
Yes. Oh, yes. I would bet my career because it was executed following textbook protocol. And there are these, I made a YouTube video on my channel of like how to spot psyops, and there's like 20 different little things. You only need one thing, and you can spot whether or not you're standing in the middle of a psyop. That one thing is, if the opinion that's coming out needs people to be silenced, it's a psyop. There are psychological operations in play.
Wow.
So if you can't question it, if you're supposed to just go along, it's a psyop.
Yeah, and if people have to be silenced or publicly shamed because of their information, and they're not telling people the sky's falling. They're not saying crazy shit.
Mm-hmm.
They're just saying basic stuff, and they need to be silenced. That is a psyop. No matter what, you can go back in any time in history during a psyop of our country, and if people needed to be silenced or shamed publicly, which is like the tribe, right? That's why public speaking is our number one fear for humans. It's not a fear of speaking; it's a fear of judgment.
Right.
So I'm just putting the threat of judgment out there. That is a psyop. So if people have to be silenced, and they were Harvard doctors kicked off of the internet or kicked off of Twitter for this stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Stanford, MIT.
That's all you need.
Yeah. The Great Barrington Declaration. People didn't agree with exactly how the government was handling everything, and they were silenced. And they were treated like fringe quacks instead of respected physicians.
Okay, he goes further. Joe Rogan shows like 3 hours. You and I don't have that much time, right? But anyway, he talks about how these incredible doctors were trying to alert the American people, and they start being silenced. Now, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya is one of Trump's top health guys going forward. Do you agree that there was an element of a psyop on the American people, and that maybe Dr. Anthony Fauci has not been as forthright about his role in funding COVID and then covering up the COVID? Your thoughts on that? Are you like me, hitting the gym, tracking every food you eat, and still wondering, why can't I lose weight? Well, let me introduce you to my secret weapon, Lumen, the world's first handheld metabolic coach. Now, I know what you're thinking, another gadget, but trust me, this is different, right? It's like having a personal nutritionist that fits in your pocket. Now, every morning you can breathe into Lumen, and boom, it will spit out data about yourself based off of your breath. Are you burning fat? Are you burning carbs? What's going on with your metabolic state? No more guessing. Lumen gives a tailored guidance to tweak your diet, sleep, stress, to help you with your unique health journey. It's not just about losing fat. It's about understanding your body's metabolic flexibility and hitting your fitness goals. Now, before my workout, I check in with Lumen. If it's a low carb day, I'm ready to go. If not, it tells me to carb up for an extra boost. It's like having a coach that whispers in your ear, do this, do that. And it just ends up making your life a lot easier. Now, Lumen has a special offer for my community only. And what I want you guys to do is you can go to lumen.me/Gardner and learn more about that. If you're ready to up your game and get personalized help to become fitter, healthier, hit your goals, again, lumen.me/Gardner. You'll get 20% off your Lumen. Go check it out right now. It really is an amazing thing.
Yeah, I don't know if they would have considered it a psyop, but I do think that Dr. Fauci misled by design, intentionally, the American people. I think it was partially to cover up his shortcomings, his poor judgment, and quite honestly, what might actually be illegal. And of course, we continue to find out more and more. I think it's also very telling that Dr. Fauci accepted a pardon. If he had nothing to hide, why wouldn't he say, I'm not going to accept the pardon? I'll stand on the evidence. But look, if you read the 450 some odd page COVID report put out by the House of Representatives that shows all the emails and the conversations there, it was pretty clear immediately that they knew they had a problem. They had to discount certain other theories well, let's face it, at the end of this whole thing, there's absolutely no empirical data or evidence whatsoever that the Wuhan virus, we shouldn't call it COVID, we should call it the China virus or the Wuhan virus, that there's no empirical evidence whatsoever that it emanated from a wet market, a bat, a pangolin, that it transferred from animals to human. There is zero evidence of that. And there's mountains of evidence, although I can say that we'll never have the proof, right? Because we can't get into China and do the investigation. But we're pretty confident, and now the multiple agencies have reinforced this confidence that this pandemic emanated from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which was partially funded through American taxpayer gain of function research, which was approved by Anthony Fauci in countervention of the law. That's where we are.
Yeah. I had Senator Ron Johnson on recently. He has subpoenaed every email Dr. Fauci has written. He says he thinks that being pardoned by Biden is going to come back to bite Fauci in the butt. Do you know of anyone on your side in the House that wants to call him in to question him further?
Oh, I think that, look, that committee, that subcommittee has now concluded because that ended with the last session. But I think that certainly the oversight committee or maybe the intelligence or judiciary committee would like to go further. And it probably depends on what Senator Johnson comes up with. That will be in addition to what the COVID task force found. What the pardon does is at this point, Dr. Fauci can no longer come in and plead the fifth on anything, right? He can't be prosecuted for these things. So now if he lies, he can go to jail for that. So he'd be compelled to tell the truth about all this stuff. And look, maybe there'll be no accountability, but at least the American people will know that the whole thing was a sham from the beginning, that the Wuhan virus came from the lab, that they weren't crazy, that masks did nothing to stop the spread of it, that the so-called vaccines didn't stop the spread of it. Like, at least they'll know that they weren't crazy, and that questioning your government is always appropriate. Not to say that you won't listen, take information, make good judgments, but you should be skeptical, because other people, especially people in enormous position or positions of enormous power, have a vested interest in making sure that they remain in that position and aren't criticized. If for no other reason, that's why we should be skeptical.
Okay. You recently participated in this new House bill. I want to get some clarification for my audience, because Democrats are going on mainstream media saying that President Trump and Elon Musk are looking for ways to end Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Trump himself has said, we want to clean up these programs, but no one's going to touch them. Have you heard anything from your Republican colleagues about getting rid of Social Security, or are these just more Democrat lies?
Well, let's just talk about Social Security in particular. So in the process of what we call reconciliation, which is what we're engaged in right now, that's what the budget we passed last night, the first step is the reconciliation budget. Social Security is strictly prohibited. You can't you can't consider it. You can't talk about it. You can't legislate on it. It's verboten in that legislation. So that's a complete fabrication as usual. Look, they're fear mongering because they don't have anything else. And so that's Social Security. On Medicare and Medicaid, I was asked yesterday by some alleged reporter who was just a leftist with a camera, some left-wing activist with a camera, about taking away people's Medicare and Medicaid. And I asked the gentleman if he'd read the bill and how many times Medicaid or Medicare were mentioned in that bill that we were going to vote on. And he said he'd read it, but he didn't know. And I reminded him that it's not mentioned one time. There are 0 times it's mentioned. They just have to be opposed to Donald Trump and anything that he wants to do, because that's what their party, that's what their base, that's what 25% of the crazy left-wing fringe demands of them. And so they have to do it, even if there's no basis in fact whatsoever, and there is no basis in fact for their argument.
Okay. All right. Two more questions. Then I know you have a heart out for another interview. Kash Patel makes his first major move as FBI director, and it's against former FBI director James Comey. I guess it's come out that Comey, I guess, had authorized the use of honeypot agents, I guess women that were going to use sexual favors to get dirt on Trump and his incoming administration. That didn't work, so they kicked off the Russiagate hoax. Is this a good move? Do we need to put this baby to bed in order to move forward? Your thoughts on Kash Patel's first major investigation?
First of all, love Kash Patel. Love that he's there at the FBI. This absolutely has to happen. James Comey can't be above the law, to use what the Democrats love to say. And let's face it, James Comey himself admitted to releasing classified documents, classified information, in an illegal way. And he's never been prosecuted for that. If you tried that, you would immediately go to jail. So if anybody's going to have any trust or faith in the FBI, and that the FBI isn't setting up sting operations to ensnare their political rivals, we have got to get to the bottom of it. Even if once again, even if there isn't going to be an accountability for James Comey, and there should be, but even if it's run beyond the statute of limitations, America has to trust that its FBI is doing the right things at the right times for the right reasons, and the eyes of justice are covered over, and they're not out looking, to find the crime to fit the man or the person. That's not what we signed up for. And if it is, then the FBI needs to be abolished and start it all over again, or something like that, because that's not America. That's not what we're about. And that's not what we should be about. We have to know the truth about it.
Okay. All right. Final question. Jake Tapper of CNN. Anytime a guest would come on and question President Biden's cognitive abilities, whether he had dementia or cognitive decline, he would label them conspiracy theorists, spreaders of misinformation. He got into a big fight one night on live TV with Lara Trump. Now he has a new book coming out in May about President Biden's mental decline and the stupid decision to run for president. How was the White House able to cover up the sitting president's mental deficiencies? And why can't Democrats just admit that he was suffering with mental decline?
Well, look, the Democrats have taken one of the plays out of the Bill Clinton playbook, right? Just deny, lie. They're never going to give it up, right? Even though the rest of the country, everybody that knew from the day that Joe Biden stepped into the presidency that he was cognitively impaired, and there were concerns about it that were legitimate, but you were just told not to believe your lying eyes. Look, Jake Tapper, once again, he's like the guy that that followed me around in the basement of the Capitol yesterday. He's not a journalist. He's a left-wing activist posing as a journalist. The reason that the White House and the ability for the White House to cover this up is because they're complicitors in the Democrat and the left wing's communication division decided to do that right alongside them. Everybody knew all along, but they decided that it was worth it to just lie to the American people about it, as opposed to be honest journalists and be critical. Look, we stand for the criticism. We've done something wrong, something's there to see, then you got to be transparent about it. But we all knew, and what they try to do is shame people to disbelieve their lying eyes, which is why Jake Tapper and CNN have no relevance in real society as a respectable and well-reputed news organization. They're not a news organization. He's not a journalist. They are propagandists for the left, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, well, just this morning, Tulsi Gabbard said she believes CNN is the left's propaganda machine, and that she plans to share more information about that. I know you got to go. Your time's valuable. Thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you for serving the country. I look forward to having you on the show again. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too, Stephen. Great to be with you. Thanks for the opportunity. God bless you and your audience.
Oh, thank you.